Also, in the next few minutes, we'll be focusing on that scenario. I'm talking about INEC, how the former chairman fared, what he put in place, and then we'll also look ahead. But first, we're joined by Jude from our studios in Abuja. Jude is the country officer and head of Nigeria office, Open Society Initiative for West Africa. Morning, and thank you for joining us. Well, you happen to have participated by observation some of the elections that were conducted by the outgoing chairman, Professor Jega. From your perspective, how would you analyze how he fared in office? We know we can't do a lot of it because of our time, but we also saw how the previous tenure of the former INEC chairman, before he then came on board. If you were to describe his tenure, what would it be?
If I should describe his tenure, the one word I would use...
No, I'm talking about Professor Jega.
I said the word I would use to describe his tenure is that the tenure was outstanding. And, you know, let me be very clear. Nigeria is in search of heroes, and I think this man needs to be celebrated. And in the last forum where I had the opportunity to speak to him or to give a tribute in his honor, I said that there are very few Nigerians whose names have been turned into a verb. Jega's name is now a verb, and it's a verb that symbolizes credibility, is a verb that symbolizes patience, comportment, diplomacy, and everything rolled into one. I mean, it wasn't a perfect tenor, but what he brought to the table is integrity and credibility. And I must make the point, the success of INEC wasn't about the institutions, about the laws that established INEC. The success of INEC in the last 5 years is rooted in the impeccable integrity of the chairman of INEC. So I think that tenor was outstanding. I think it was brave. I think it was innovative. And most of all, I think that tenor also tells us something about Nigeria, that, you know, when we bring people of credible character into office, they can actually make a difference. And he worked in an environment that was polluted with a very destructive politics. He worked in an environment where politicians were trying to undermine his every move, and he still was able to come out, hold his head up.
Let me jump in there. When you talk about politicians trying to undermine his every move, no matter how one has that impeccable or integrity, can you succeed entirely if you do not have the cooperation of, say, the president?
Well, it must also be said that he received some level of cooperation from the president, but the president is not the only position in the country. This is a commission that at every step of the way, every time they introduce something innovative to enhance the credibility of the elections, politicians find a way to undermine that. And I've made the point again and again, and he also made that point, that the biggest challenge to Nigeria's democracy is not about our laws, it's not about the citizens, it's about the politicians who spend an undue amount of time and energy in trying to find ways to undermine the system to better themselves. So yes, there was cooperation from the presidency, from National Assembly, once in a while, but by and large, the larger pool of the politicians in Nigeria really did not help INEC.
Let me give another example. Take a look at the states. Now there's a call that INEC at the national level conduct elections at the state level to the extent that they're calling to scrap the State Independent Electoral Commission. Why? Because they've not found men, or they've not found them to be maybe stand out as they expect. Look at all of those states. When elections are conducted in those states, we can always predict how the elections are going to turn out. So if the number one person in that state wants his bidding done, isn't that what we see play out in those states?
No, now you're making my point. If at the state level also the politicians can allow the SEC to function properly, we wouldn't be in a situation where we can always know the outcome of results. Because, election has to be a predictable process with an unpredictable outcome. It is really, really wrong for us to have at that state level an unpredictable process and a predictable outcome. It's a contradiction that undermines the whole principle of our democracy. So the point that you're making goes to the fact that we have a problem with the way our politicians are engaging the electoral process. Now we have an INEC that tried to, engage those contradictions head on. But the point of the matter is that Jega is only just an individual. The larger question for us moving forward is what next?
Yeah, before we go to what next, I was actually trying to draw an analogy saying, if whoever is the president was acting as the state governor, some of them did act at that time, would we be talking about all of this innovation that came through, how it came through, would we?
We need to keep in mind, one, that the legal framework within which INEC at the federal level is operating is far more different from what you have at the state level. We need to keep in mind that you have a more functional legislature at the national level than at the state level. So I think the context is quite different. And again, the vastness of the federation makes it a little bit difficult for the presidency to completely undermine INEC. It's not that it's not possible. If you had a president that was out to undermine INEC, Jega is going to have a hard time achieving any of the things he has achieved. But the point I'm trying to make, yes, there was some level of cooperation, and to that we have to give kudos to the past presidents, but also the enabling framework within which INEC worked also helped to cushion whatever may have been perceived negative influence from the level of the presidency. But the point is that, yes, Goodluck should take some credit for the INEC that we have right now.
You know, Mr. When you do a comparison between the INEC that was under Jega and the one that was before Jega came in, you might be right. Some people will agree with you when you say they did well. But there are those who would argue with you that, is this the best that INEC could have done? Because some of the things, innovations they had brought in were not properly thought through.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean,